Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show.
Cup of Joe Wrestling Show?
With Joey Harris. A podcast for the wrestling fan on the go. So take your favorite beverage of choice and join Joey as he takes a look at some of the biggest shows on the WWE Network.
Welcome to the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show. I'm your host, Joey Harris, and we're broadcasting from makeshift studios in the shadow of South Central Virginia. Follow the show on Twitter and Blue Sky at Cup of Joe Pod. Email the show at cupofjoewrestlingshow@gmail.com. You can support the show at paypal.me/cupofjoepod. I am on Cash App and Venmo at TheJoeyHarris. If you'd like to just send me a little bit of money that way, I'd appreciate it. If you enjoy the show, and of course, patreon.com/babykangaroomedia for bonus episodes of the Cup of Joe Wrestling Show, the Joey Harris Super Show, the Green Room, the Book Club Baristas, and so much more. Just $5 a month for hours of extra content. And folks, back again, had a fantastic Thanksgiving last week. It was great. I had a great time seeing family, gathering with family, just enjoying the day. And then this past weekend, Saturday, I went down to Winston-Salem, North Carolina to WrestleCade. I had a great time. I met so many people, just so great. I wanted to complete my visits with the greats from when I was growing up, the Monday Night Wars. I've met Jim Ross a couple of times. So this time I met Tony Schiavone, who was very nice and gracious. We talked about the Collision show that I had went to in Roanoke, Virginia this past August, and he talked about that was such a great show. And we talked about, I knew he was a big fan of Batman, so we talked about the comic book Absolute Batman. I told him that he really needed to read that, and then went over and met Jerry Lawler, just quiet because he's had some health issues lately, but just very gracious and nice. And I wished him happy birthday because it was his birthday, and he thanked me for that. So just fantastic seeing the king. And then I met the APA, Bradshaw and Farouk. Bradshaw was also his birthday, and so he thanked me when I told him that. And I told him it was also my wife's birthday. And so Farouk, Ron Simmons was kidding me that they ought to take their picture with her and said, "Where's she at?" I said, I'm getting with her later to celebrate her birthday, that she wasn't there. But it was fun to meet them and talk with them a little bit. And then Jimmy Hart was there. Got to meet Jimmy, who just thanked me profusely for coming to see him over and over again. It was just the nicest man, and got a autograph picture from him and took my picture with him. And folks, I did not take that megaphone. I had my picture taken with Jimmy and the megaphone. I held the megaphone. It was very nice, but somebody took Jimmy Hart's megaphone. And I don't know who would do something like that, but give the megaphone back. What is wrong with you? The nerve of some people. Am I right? So then also ran into former guest of the show, Reggie Harb, Mr. 605 himself. It was fantastic seeing Reggie and catching up with him, checking on him, and just talking with him for a few minutes, taking a picture with him, and meeting Bo James. I've been trying to get on the show and talking with him and buying a book from him and congratulating him and his new wife, Judy, on their marriage. So it was a really good time in Winston-Salem. Then came back, brought my wife flowers. I'd given her a couple of other gifts, and just celebrating her birthday at her parents' house this past weekend. So just a great time and holiday season, as today we take a look at the Big Apple Blizzard Blast from ECW. The Big Apple Blizzard Blast was presented on February the 3rd, 1996. From the Lost Battalion Hall in Queens, New York. There were 1,200 in attendance. We start out with our intro. Joel Gertner welcomes the crowd. Paulie comes out and gets a chant. He tells the crowd that they are running late and shows a camera crew from a current affair. Taz with Bill Alfonso versus the Shark Attack Kid. The crowd gets on Alfonso and Taz and chants Sabu. The introductions are made. The bell rings. They trade moves. Shark Attack Kid gets out of some moves. A fall-away Tazplex to the Shark Attack Kid, followed by a T-Bone Tazplex. He hits a belly-to-belly superplex and puts the Tazmission on and gets the submission quickly. Taz then gets the mic and calls out 911. Todd Gordon comes out. He gets the mic. He says 911 doesn't want to wrestle Taz and has left the building. Alfonso calls Gordon yellow. Gordon gets in the ring and Alfonso slugs Gordon. Gordon attacks Alfonso. Taz comes in and attacks Gordon. Bam Bam Bigelow makes the save and the crowd cheers. The crowd chants Bam Bam. Bigelow calls out Taz as Taz and Alfonso leave. Axel Rotten and El Puerto Ricano versus the Headhunters with Damian Kane and Lady Alexander. The Headhunters attack Ricano. They throw him out and attack Rotten. Headhunter 1 with a shoulder block and a clothesline. He misses an elbow drop when Rotten moves. Ricano tagged in. He tries to get Headhunter 1 down but can't. Headhunter 1 with a Tiger Driver for a 2 count. Headhunter 1 with a clothesline and a corner splash. Headhunter 2 in and a double team slam and splash to Ricano. Rotten makes the save. Headhunter 1 back in. He hits a spine buster, but Headhunter 1 pulls Ricano up before the pin. Headhunter 2 tagged back in. He misses a top rope elbow drop. Rotten tagged in and unloads on Headhunter 2. Double team to Rotten. He comes back. Rotten with a clothesline. Ricano tagged in and splashes Headhunter 2 but can't get a count. He moonsaults onto Ricano to get the pin. ECW World Tag Team Championship match. Cactus Jack and Mikey Whipwreck versus the Eliminators Saturn and Cronus. Raven comes out with Cactus and Whipwreck and shoves Whipwreck. The belts are presented and the introductions are made. Whipwreck doesn't get along with Raven. The bell rings. Cactus has a WWF-NF's t-shirt on as he has just signed with the WWF. Cronus and Whipwreck start. Cronus shoves Whipwreck down several times. Whipwreck with a side headlock takedown. They trade holds, and Cronus rolls out to regroup. Whipwreck with a drop toe hold and goes back to the side headlock. Cronus throws Whipwreck off and tags Saturn in. Saturn with a side headlock. Back and forth. Whipwreck with a side headlock takeover and Cactus pulls Whipwreck off. They argue and Cactus tags himself in. Cactus berates Whipwreck on the mic. He said that he won the titles all by himself. Cactus attacks Saturn. They battle in a corner. Cactus with a back elbow. Cactus with a leg drop for a 2 count. Whipwreck tagged back in. He and Cactus argue, and Saturn takes advantage. He hits a slingshot on Whipwreck. Cronus tagged in. He hits Whipwreck with a handspring elbow. Cronus with a chin lock. Whipwreck fights out. Saturn tagged in. The Eliminators hit a powerbomb falling knee combo. Cactus makes the save on the pin. Cronus tagged in, another 2 count and Cactus Jack save. Cronus with a belly-to-belly suplex. Cactus tagged in and unloads on the Eliminators. The Eliminators double team Cactus. Cactus clotheslines Cronus to the outside. Cactus with a diving back elbow. Cactus hits Saturn with a pile driver. He breaks a glass bottle and goes after Cronus with it. Whipwreck stops him. Whipwreck unloads on the Eliminators. He hits a Franken Mikey. The Eliminators hit total elimination on Whipwreck to pin him to become the new tag team champions. Raven comes in and assaults Whipwreck. Cactus hits Raven off of Whipwreck, but then clotheslines Whipwreck himself. He double arm DDTs Whipwreck onto a chair. Joey Styles is in the interview the Eliminators. Francine comes out. She offers to manage the Eliminators, but it's just a ruse to have the Pit Bulls attack the Eliminators. They take a pair of scissors and cut Saturn's hair. The Gangsters then challenge the Eliminators to put the titles up. Stevie Richards and the Blue Meanie are in the ring with Raven and Kimono Wanalea. Richards says he and Meanie are the fabulous ones and do the Fargo strut. Raven and Stevie Richards with Kimono and the Meanie versus Tommy Dreamer and Shane Douglas with Beulah McGillicuddy. It takes a long time to get started. Dreamer unloads on Richards and Raven. Douglas holds a chair and Dreamer baseball slides it into Richards' face. Richards puts on a Razor Ramon t-shirt to antagonize Douglas. He flicks a toothpick at Douglas. Douglas attacks Richards back and forth. Dreamer tagged in. He throws Richards to the outside. He attacks Richards with weapons from the fans. He slams Richards onto a chair. Dreamer misses a splash. Raven tagged in. He beats Dreamer with a chair. Richards tagged back in. He hits a leg drop for a 2 count. Raven tagged in and hit Dreamer with the world belt. Raven with a drop toe hold. Double suplex to Dreamer. Raven with a flurry of offense on Dreamer. Richards is in and hits a Stevie kick to Dreamer. Raven tagged in and prevents Dreamer from tagging. Raven with a pile driver for a 2 count. Richards tagged in and hit a knee drop to Dreamer's groin. Dreamer comes back with a clothesline. Raven and Douglas tagged in. Douglas takes over on Raven and Richards. He gets a 2 count on Raven. Douglas with a pile driver on Richards. Raven makes the save. Cactus Jack comes in. Douglas runs Richards into Cactus and hits the belly-to-belly and covers Richards. Raven hits Douglas with a chain for a 2 count. The Sandman comes in and canes everyone, including the referee. Raven covers Douglas, but there's no referee. Raven chokes Douglas with the chain and hits a pile driver for a close 2 count. He can't get the pin. Both men are down after Douglas kicks Raven in the head. Richards tagged in, he hits a swing neck breaker. Raven back in and Douglas hits a DDT off of an Irish whip. Douglas can't make the tag. Richards back in and hits a powerbomb for a 2 count. Back and forth. Dreamer comes in and hits Raven and Richards with a frying pan. Dreamer with a power slam on Richards for a 2 count. Meanie hits a moonsault, but it hits Richards. The action is frantic. Beulah attaches a frying pan to Dreamer's boot. He kicks Richards to get the pin. WWA World Welterweight Championship match. Rey Mysterio versus Juventud Guerrera. The bell rings and they circle each other. Mysterio arm drags Guerrera to the outside. They trade moves and counters. Mysterio with an arm drag into an armbar. Guerrero reverses and Mysterio gets to the ropes. Guerrero with a spine buster for a 2 count. Mysterio Hurricane Rondas Guerrero from the turnbuckle to the floor while Guerrero was on the apron. Guerrero with a somersault leg drop for a 2 count. Mysterio with a clothesline back and forth. Mysterio with a springboard Hurricane Rana and a plancha to Guerrero on the outside. Mysterio puts a chair around Guerrero's neck and pushes him into a ring post. Guerrero with a drop kick and a German suplex. He follows it up with a springboard spin kick, hits a Tiger Bomb for a 2 count. A throw with a bridge gets a 2 count. Mysterio with the Hurricane Rana for a 2 count. Mysterio with a power slam. Mysterio reverses a Splash Mountain attempt into a Super Hurricane Rana to get the pin. Joey Styles interviews Bill Alfonso and Taz. Alfonso puts down 911. Rey Mysterio comes out and tells them not to talk about 911 and tells Taz that he isn't afraid of him. He then attacks Alfonso and Taz. Taz catches him and suplexes him. They trade blows. Another suplex knocks Mysterio out. Wrestlers and officials out to check on Mysterio. JT Smith starts kicking Mysterio and Hack Myers attacks Smith. They fight to the back. Damage Control takes Mysterio away. Woman comes out. She says she plans to be on WCW and ECW and asks Joey if he would like to go to WCW with her. Sandman comes out and she asks him to come with her. He puts her down. She says she's staying. Too Cold Scorpio comes out and says he was in the limo with Woman. He then puts her down as well. He then grabs Woman and takes her outside to the limo and throws her in and tells the driver to take her to Atlanta. Goodbye, Nancy. You deserved much better. Stevie Richards and the Blue Meanie come out. Richards says he has a message from Raven. Richards says he is giving Sandman the opportunity to back out of the match with Raven. Sandman says he's never backed down from a fight. Richards gives him another opportunity. Meanie tries to kick Sandman and gets caned. Sandman tells Richards to let Raven know that Sandman is coming after his belt. Richards asks Joey what he should tell Raven. Raven and Kimona come out. Raven calls Richards a moron. He runs Richards down and slaps Richards. He tells Richards that his surprise better be big or he is fired. He then beats on Richards. Richards says that they will be on all the news networks. He pulls out a lawsuit that he has filed against Missy Hyatt. Hyatt comes to ringside. She confronts Richards. Raven tells her she can join up with him and Hyatt puts Raven down. Sandman comes back and canes everyone to save Hyatt. She lights a cigarette for him and he drinks a beer while the crowd cheers. JT Smith versus Bubba Ray Dudley with the rest of the Dudley family. The introductions are made. Bubba does his name shtick. Smith says he can't wrestle because he is injured and gives Bubba $100 for his troubles. He then low blows Bubba. Bubba then hits a Bubba bomb to get the win. He starts to leave, but the fans chant for Bubba to dance and he obliges. Mr. Hughes versus Sabu. Sabu dives for Hughes several times. Hughes pounds on Sabu. He knocks Sabu down. It goes outside. They fight out into the crowd. Sabu dives onto Hughes, but gets caught and rammed into the ring post. Hughes hits Sabu with a chair. They trade shots in the ring. Sabu with a twisting DDT to Hughes. Sabu attacks Hughes with the chair. Sabu hits Air Sabu on Hughes. Sabu sets up a table at ringside. Hughes moves, and Sabu crashes onto the table. Hughes follows up with a shoulder breaker. Sabu with a slingshot leg kick to Hughes. Hughes with a modified sidewalk slam for a 2 count. Hughes with a nerve hold. Sabu fights out of the hold. Sabu grabs a chair and goes for Air Sabu again. Hughes grabs him and hits a power slam for a 2 count. Hughes hits a sidewalk slam, but Sabu gets his foot on the bottom rope. Sabu with the head scissors. They fall out onto the floor. Sabu puts Hughes on the setup table. He leg drops Hughes through the table. Sabu with an inside cradle for a 2 count. Hughes goes up top, but gets caught. Hughes holds on for a Sabu Hurricane Rana attempt. Hughes with a second rope clothesline for a 2 count. Hughes with another sidewalk slam, but again it is near the ropes. Hughes hits a sidewalk slam and puts a chair on Sabu, but misses a splash when Sabu moves. Sabu hits a slingshot leg drop to get the pin. The Gangstas Mustafa and New Jack versus the Sandman and Too Cold Scorpio. The ring is filled with weapons. This is just going to be a brawl. They battle all over. Scorpio hits New Jack with a plancha. Mustafa hits Sandman with a snapmare. They hit each other with several weapons. New Jack hits Scorpio with a pool cue. Sandman runs Mustafa into the barricade. More chairs and weapons are used. Mustafa and Scorpio trade 2 counts after moves. Mustafa drop kicks Scorpio out of the ring, back and forth. Sandman hits New Jack with a toilet seat. Sandman with a top rope leg drop to New Jack. New Jack attacks Scorpio. The gangsters double team Sandman. They cane Sandman. Scorpio sprays hairspray on Mustafa to get the pin. They continue to brawl after the match. Sandman is down and Scorpio revives him with a cigarette and a beer. The crowd cheers him as he dances and they sign off from Queens. Final thoughts. A good show, but ECW is rapidly changing. You can follow me on Facebook, Threads, and Instagram at TheJoeyHarris. If you like the show, please leave a review on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, or your preferred podcast app. I would really appreciate it. We can also be found on Spotify and YouTube. Just search for The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show and don't forget to hit subscribe. Thank you for joining me. This is Joey saying so long from the heart of Virginia.
The Cup of Joe Wrestling Show is a production of Baby Kangaroo Media.